Welcome to the Introduction to Cybersecurity webinar. This was a webinar hosted by CSNP and Girls Dream Code. The speakers that we have today that will be talking about different cybersecurity topics. We'll start off with Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm the co-founder of CSNP, or Cybersecurity Nonprofit. We provide free security educational resources. And I'm also a cryptographer.
My name is Victoria Treme. I am a software engineer, and I am the founder of Girls Dream Code, which is a nonprofit that provides free tech workshops for young minority girls.
Hi everyone, I am Karen and I work as a security analyst for a digital marketing firm, and I'm working as a Chicago outreach lead for CSNP. I'll be talking about password security, malware.
Hi everybody, my name is Erin Bailey and I'm a software engineer for the security team at a company called Gemini. So I help them find and fix vulnerabilities within the code base.
Okay, so introduction. Nowadays, computers have become interconnected, allowing us to communicate nearby instantly across the globe. But not everyone who uses this network is going to play by the rules. Like physical security, like locks, fences, and police officers are used to minimize the crime in the real world. Likewise, we need cybersecurity to minimize crime in the virtual world. So what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is basically principles, practices designed to protect our online information against any type of threats. With the use of cybersecurity in our day-to-day lives will help us prevent from hackers stealing our data. Can you press next, Victoria? Okay. So what is who is a hacker? Basically, there is a stereotypical view of a hacker as someone sitting in a dark room with a hoodie and a laptop. That is not really true. Hacker can be anyone around us. Next slide, Victoria. There are different types of hacker, from beginners to professional, as you can see in the picture. Not all hackers are bad. There are hackers who works to build a secure system and are hired by a company and government. These hackers are called white hat hackers. They are the good guys. On the flip side, there are black hats with the intention to steal, exploit, and sell the data. Hackers' motivation also differ widely. Some hackers, like Script Kiddie, hack for amusement and curiosity, while cyber criminals hack mostly for monetary gain. Then there are hacktivists who use their skills to promote social or political goals. Next slide.
So cyber risks and threats. What are they? A malicious act that seeks to damage and steal data and to disrupt digital life. So as we check a live cyber threat map, as you can see, this is showing how many attacks that are ongoing in real time all around the world. The number keeps increasing. It's at 12,346,000, and it will just keep increasing. It just goes to show how many cyber attacks there are in real time across the globe. Another area within cybersecurity is phishing. So what is phishing? It is a cyber crime where someone poses as a trustworthy entity and contacts people through email, phone, or text message in order to get sensitive information. And that type of information could be banking or credit card information, your social security note, like anything that's identifiable, and it's often used for malicious purposes. Another type of cybercrime that relates to phishing is email spoofing, and that is an email that is sent from a sender that looks official or trustworthy, but it is not. Some common features of phishing: it's too good to be true. It's a sense of urgency, like you need to send this information now. Hyperlinks, attachments, the sender is unusual. So we'll see some examples of what some phishing emails look like. So for this site right here, this Facebook login page, it is actually not a fish, it is real, and you can kind of tell by some certain characteristics. It has the HTTPS, so that means it's secure login, secure communication through networks. But then here, this is also a similar social media login page, but this is a fish because, as we can see, this isn't a proper, like, official URL. It's using HTTP. There's no S attached to it, so it's not secure, as well as all of these extended items here in the URL. So these are good things to look out for.
So malware. To stay online, you need to keep your devices safe from any kind of malicious software. Malicious software is developed with a bad intent. In simple terms, malware is a malicious code written with a bad intent. Now there are various types of computer malwares. As you can see, virus, worms, Trojan, ransomware. We'll discuss more about it in next slide. Virus. Virus may be attached to your file and present in your computer, but cannot infect your computer unless you run or open that file. Just like human virus, computer virus requires human assistance to infect your computer and spread. Worms. Worms are just like virus, but it will spread on the network without human assistance. It usually shows up via email and instant messages. Next slide. Trojan. It is type of malware which hide its true intent. As shown in the picture on the right, you may feel you are installing the software, but it may be a Trojan. The term is derived from Trojan horse. I am very sure that everyone must have heard the story of ancient Greek wooden horse, which was used to invade the city of Troy by stealth. Ransomware. It is very trending malware that is mainly achieved through phishing. Once you click the link or file, computer files are and hackers will demand a fees to decrypt your files. Next slide. Next slide, Victoria. So here are some ways you can prevent it. Install antivirus software. There are free antivirus software available like Avira, Norton, Kaspersky, Avast, McAfee, and many more. Not only installing antivirus software, but also regularly update the antivirus software. Also keep your operating systems up to date. You should not install application or software from any unknown sources. Also, don't click links or download attachments from the unknown source. In the picture, at the left bottom, you can see that there is a email from university. It looks like you have received an email from university, but when you actually check the link, it is not from university. So in this case, you don't want to go ahead with this link. Instead, you can type the university address and change your password if it's required. And lastly, don't use open Wi-Fi. I would like to show two websites where you can actually check whether the links are safe to access or not. I'll be sharing my screen. So this is Virus Total. Here you can actually scan for file, URL, or any IP address or domain or file hash. So before like watching online movies, I usually check whether the site is safe or not. So this is one of the movie website. Let's see. So this is the website shows it is malicious. So I might avoid going to that website. Next is Security website scanner. Here you can check whether the website has malware or not. So let's scan. So no malware found. Here you can see there is a low security risk. So you might go ahead with this website. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, so cyberbullying, what is it? It is the act of harassing, threatening, or embarrassing anyone using technology. What to do about cyberbullying? You could talk to someone trustworthy, block the cyberbully, report the bullying to someone trustworthy, and also just be safe online and be cautious of what you post. There will be resources to different cyber bullying at the end of this presentation if you would like more information on that.
Social media is a great way to share photos, create funny videos, and keep in touch with friends, but it's important that we are all cautious about the information that we post online. So some of the most common security questions are related to information that is easily obtainable from things that we post publicly. We give up information about our birthdays, our pets, phone numbers, the cars that we drive, and so much more without a second thought. And even though we may not post our exact address, photos contain information called EXIF data that gives away all kinds of content about where you are, and it's embedded directly into the image itself. So even though you might not give out your exact address, that cute photo that you post of your dog sitting on the couch reveals the exact GPS coordinates where the photo was taken. So posting this information online can lead to things like identity theft, which is when somebody uses your information to pretend to be you, to maybe open up a credit card or take out a loan or something like that. They can also use this information for account takeovers or SIM swapping, which means a hacker hijacks control over your cell phone so they have access to any security codes that are sent to you via text message. And this type of information can also just give people extra stuff to use to look you up online. You can go to the next slide. You may feel more comfortable only sharing this kind of information with people that you trust. So here are the settings to change your Instagram account to private. You can go to settings and then privacy and account privacy, and then you can select private account. And then if you go to the next slide, we can see the instructions on how to make your TikTok settings private. So even though TikTok just got banned, I think you'll still be able to use it for a bit. It's worth looking into changing your settings. So go to your profile and select settings, tap the 3 dots in the right corner, and then in privacy and safety, turn on private account. So regardless of whether you use Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Discord, or anything in between, I highly suggest you take some time to make your settings private. Next slide. So you may already have these settings enabled. It's still important to realize that even if you post something privately, it still has the potential to become public. All of these private posts are still stored on the site's servers and can be exploited in many different ways. For example, an employee who has access, a data breach, or maybe if the company changes their terms and conditions and decides to start selling your data. So remember that everything you post online is forever, even things that may seem temporary like snaps or Instagram stories. And this isn't meant to scare you. We just want everyone to be cautious about what you post online. Next slide. One more aspect of social media that we should all be careful of is catfishing and bot accounts. Catfishing is when someone makes a fake account and pretends to be someone else. They can easily download photos from a friend or family's account and impersonate them, maybe by asking for money or other sensitive information. If someone ever contacts you on social media about a request for money, for example, verify in another way that the request is legit. A bot is an account that is automated and has no humans sitting behind it. They send messages and requests on their own. Bots are an easy and fast way to reach a lot of people. The more bots you have reaching out to people, the more chances are someone will fall for a scam. Bots are designed to target as many people as possible and just hope that somebody takes a bite and falls for it. Next slide.
Okay, so for this slide, I'll be sharing my screen. Password security. So just imagine keys to your home. Passwords are like just those keys, but online. Password security is about making a password that is hard for people to guess and to make your account more secure. If your password is compromised, hacker could gain access to your social media accounts, bank accounts, emails, and other sensitive accounts that holds your confidential or personal data. Let's check how strong is your password. This is a website where you can actually check whether the password is strong or not. But do not enter your original password. You can enter an equivalent password. Let's see. Longer the password, it will take longer for a hacker to break it. As you can see, it will take 6 sextillion years to crack your password. Also, this website will give you tips to secure to increase the complexity of your password. As you can see, here is the number one tip is password manager. Also, the second tip shows you can use the variety of characters. Here are the top 20 most commonly used passwords, which can be cracked by any computer system within no time. As I mentioned, longer the password, longer it will take for a hacker to break it. So what would be a good example for password? We can use 4 to 6 random words for our password. Hacker could guess a random word like daisies, but it would be hard for a hacker to think of a unique random phrase like daisies and tulips play together. You can compose a phrase that gives you a mental image that will help you remember but easily. I'll show you the demo, how easy it is to crack the password. This is website which I have launched, but do not try on any random website. It is not legal. I have used Burp Suite. This is a tool which is used by most of the hackers or pen testers to hack the websites. Here I have used 10,000 commonly used passwords. These are the commonly used passwords. And I have imported that list in the tool. I've already started the attack. Here it shows the username and password. We want to look for the code 3302 since it shows the success. Yeah. So let's try this password or maybe this password and username for our website. So it is this easy for a hacker to crack the password. Let's look for security tips. Complain that they are not able to remember the password. So there are two most commonly used methods. One is use password, as I mentioned in my previous slide. You can use 4 to 6 random words with at least 20 characters long. The second common method is to use password manager. A password, there are like many password manager freely available like Dashlane, LastPass, KeePass, 1Password, McAfee. I use KeePass. I'll just show the GUI. It is very simple to use. You can just add an entry and you can also choose like what kind of encryption password that would be covered by Erin in the next slide, and you can just save that password. Also, you want to change your password regularly. I personally change every 180 days. Enable two-factor authentication. This is like an additional layer to secure your account. So what is two-factor authentication? You would have noticed while logging into the online websites or the bank accounts, the code has been sent to your mobile. So that is authentication. Nowadays, all applications provide 2FA, which will allow you to authenticate your identity through phone number, email address, or the Authenticator app. Now, what are don'ts? Do not use any personal information within your password. Avoid using same password for every account. Do not write your passwords down. And as I mentioned, do not use a common or a obvious password. I'll stop sharing my screen.
So I want to go ahead and talk about encoding and encryption and the differences between them, as well as what they're both used for. So if you go to the next slide, we can talk about encoding. Encoding is simply transforming data into another format. It's used for transferring data. For example, if you have an image and you need to send it over an email, you have to transform the pixels into a format that it can be easily sent to another computer. We don't see any of the encoding happening from a user perspective. Encoding is invisible, and we don't even know what's going on after we hit the send button. And the receiving end also doesn't know that the encoding is going on. They simply see the decoded image on the screen because everything happens automatically. Encoding is not used to secure data, and there are a couple of reasons. This is because it's as easy to encode data as it is to decode it. There is no secret key required, and all of the tools to encode and decode data are publicly available. So if you go to the next slide, we can see an example of this. And just because something looks secure doesn't mean that it is. This string of jumbled characters might seem really complicated to understand, and I personally can't read what it says, but this is a message that has been encoded into base 64. Because it's encoded, this means that we have tools publicly available online for us to decode it. If we go to the next slide, we can see that if we took this set of strings, this encoded character, and we went online and looked for a base 64 decoder, we would be able to easily and quickly see that this jumbled encoded message actually just translates to something really simple, like a hello message. And there we go. So we have the tools publicly available. So all this really does is transform data into a different format so that it can be read by either a human or a computer. Now, encryption is a little bit different. We learned that encoding translates the data, but it absolutely does not secure the data because it's easy to both encode and decode messages. If you wanted to send a personal letter to your friend, you wouldn't want to write it in a foreign language because whoever finds the note can easily go to Google Translate and see what the personal message was. So this would be an example of encoding your data, and you wouldn't want to encode it. You wouldn't want to encode a secret message, you would want to actually encrypt it. So encryption uses a mathematical algorithm as well as a key that needs to be kept safe. Messages are easy to encrypt, but they're really difficult to decrypt. And this is known as a trapdoor function because it's easy to compute in one direction, but really, really difficult to compute in the opposite direction without that special information like the key. And this is what keeps the data secure. So only people who have the key can decrypt the message. When encryption is used in applications like a messaging app, it's also invisible to the user. Encryption and decryption are handled on the back end automatically, so the message stays secure and the users don't have to know the mathematical algorithm or the key that is required. It happens by the computers automatically. And we can see an example of this in the next slide. If you wanted to encrypt a message yourself, let's say you and your mom wanted to plan a surprise party for your sister and you need to write out the time and place where everyone is going to meet, but you don't want your sister to read it, you can encrypt it. So on the next slide, we have a message to meet at Grant Park at 2 p.m. If you create a key that only you and your mom know, you can use that to encrypt and decrypt the message. In this example, the key is 4. You encrypt the message by adding 4 to each letter or number in the original message. If we take the first letter G in Grant Park and add 4 letters to it, we get the letter K. And we can go ahead and add 4 to the remaining letters of the message, which encrypts it and creates what is known as a ciphertext. Next slide. The ciphertext is a secure message that you can post on the fridge without your sister being able to read because only you and your mom hold the key to decrypt it. That is one of the biggest differences between encoding and encryption. Encryption uses a key, and only the people who are allowed to view the message know what the key is, and this makes the message secure. On the next slide, we can see some examples of encrypted messaging apps that are used. So Signal and Telegram use what is called end-to-end encryption. End-to-end encryption is a method of secure communication that prevents third parties from accessing data while it's transferred from one end system or device to another. For example, one cell phone to another cell phone. So your message is secure throughout the whole life cycle of sending and receiving the message. In this case, a third party is a malicious hacker or maybe someone who is spying on the messages that are being sent back and forth. And because this is, again, the encryption is happening on the back end automatically, the users just see a normal looking text message. They don't have to put in any extra work to decrypt the message that their friend is sending them. Next slide.
All right, so now I'm going to talk about careers in cybersecurity. So when we think about cybersecurity, we usually have a hacker, and that's the person that's trying to steal data or get access to something that they're not supposed to have access or break some kind of application. And then we have the good guys or the heroes who are trying to stop the hacker from doing this. And we can divide this into two main areas of cybersecurity careers. There's the red team, which is the offensive security, and the blue team, which is the defensive security. So it takes a whole team of different professionals to really stop the hacker. So the first job we have is called the ethical hacker. So this is part of the red team. And what the ethical hacker does is she has to think like a hacker. So with permission of the organization or the application, she will try to hack apps or websites in order to find flaws before a hacker does. So she does this hacking and then figures out there's a flaw, and then she can actually tell the app or the organization so that they can fix it, and that way a hacker won't be able to do that same attack. And so ethical hacking is really important, but what's also really important is that you have to have explicit permission of the organization or the website, whatever you are trying to hack. Even if you have good intent, that's actually still illegal to hack something that you weren't given explicit permission for. So if you're interested in trying out hacking, there's a lot of ethical hacking websites. So these are websites that are intentionally vulnerable, and they're in order to give you practice and also teach you how to do some basic hacking. So I listed just a few of these. Victoria, maybe you could click on Hack This as an example. See what that one. Yeah, so this is an example, Hack This. It'll make it very clear that this website is specifically designed to be hacked. So if you click Get Started, you can just see what it takes you to. So it gives you some tutorials of how to hack. It's really designed to be educational and fun, kind of like a game. So you can go back. So if you're interested in trying to figure out how things work and break into things and solve puzzles, then ethical hacking is a really great job choice. Next is Cryptographer. This is what I do. And this is a combination between defensive blue team and some offensive red team. So on the defensive side, the Cryptographer is actually implementing or coding these encryption algorithms that Aaron was talking about earlier. So creating these new forms of encryption or implementing existing forms to better protect data. But a cryptographer can also do some red team offensive stuff. They can try to break the cryptography, again, with permission, and try to find flaws. And then they can use this to figure out how to make the cryptography better. And cryptography involves a lot of math. So if you're interested in math and thinking abstractly, there's a lot of that when you get into cryptography. And there's also a lot of coding. Next is secure coding. So secure coding itself isn't exactly a career, but I put it in there because really anyone who does any kind of developing, software engineering, any coding, they need to know how to do it securely. So coding securely is very important because you want to make sure that your code can't be used in unintended ways or hacked. And there's a lot of best practices to learn when you're writing code on how to write secure code. But there's also careers in this too, if you're interested in verifying that the code is secure, checking code, and that's more of an application security engineer. Their job is to verify that the code that is being written is actually going to be secure and can't be used in improper ways. Next is the security analyst. So this is a blue team defensive role. And basically what you're doing is analyzing activity and responding to abnormal activity that might be a potential threat. So for example, let's say you're observing who's logging on to a system, and you see that somebody logs on in the US, and then 10 hours later, they log on in Canada. That's a little abnormal. It's not people aren't usually traveling that much usually, so you might look into it. You might find that there was actually a hacker trying to log in, or you might find that that person just went to Canada. But let's say, for example, someone logs in the US and then an hour later they log in Australia. We know that's not really possible, so that would probably be taken very seriously to see, is that actually a hacker or is there some other explanation? So that's what the analyst does, and they're monitoring and fighting these threats to the organization in real time. Next is threat hunting. So this is a little similar to the security analyst role, except it's really more about trying to hunt down the threats, to actually hunt down like individual threats instead of just monitoring the activity. So you might be looking for a threat and you know there's a hacker that's been trying to get to log in Australia. So you might actually be trying to hunt down that particular threat. So searching for intruders, searching traffic for abnormal activity. And then we have cyber forensics. So this is also blue team, defensive. And cyber forensics comes in after an attack. So let's say that somehow the attack was still able to get through, and now we call in cyber forensics investigators. And they look into it, they investigate what's the depth of the damage. So they report how the attack occurred, which is really important because then when we figure out how the attack occurred, we can figure out how to prevent it next time. They also try to understand the hacker's behavior. Once the attacker got in, what did they do? How did they move through the system? And again, how can we prevent them from doing that in the future? And they're also there to discover all the malware. So maybe they found some malware, but we want to make sure that we've gotten rid of all of it. So they'll completely search, discover any malware that the hacker implemented, and so that they can get rid of it. Next. So those are just some of the careers in cybersecurity. There's many, many different types of careers. It takes a whole team of people to really protect our data, our applications, our systems, really. So it's also important to note that in cybersecurity, there's a lot of different skills required for different jobs. So a lot of these jobs don't require coding, while some of them do. So it's important to figure out what you enjoy most, whether it's breaking into apps, solving puzzles, thinking mathematically, trying to find threats, analyzing activity, or writing secure code. These all fall under the realm of cybersecurity, but require many different skills.
So that wraps up our Introduction to Cybersecurity webinar. We have some resources here, just different links about basic cybersecurity topics, as well as the resources for cyberbullying and different things of that nature. Thank you to all of our speakers that spoke today. We hope you learned a lot about cybersecurity.